My name is Pablo. I coordinate Jubilee Christmas for Lafayette Urban Ministry, among other duties. And basically what that means is I help make this possible for you to participate, and you do most of the work. We will register the families. We will make sure that they meet the criteria that we've set, and we will communicate with the families as needed to get them where they need to be. But really, the day of in the past has been a lot of it, like 98% of it has been on you, as all of you know. Before I start, is there anybody that doesn't know what Jubilee Christmas is? Okay, so we're all veterans. I think what eventually I'm going to want to know from you all is, what are the restrictions that are going to be placed on you as far as participating? That will determine, at least at the front end, how many churches will be participating and in what capacity. And in my mind, that means, number one, are you able to participate at all? Number two, if you're able to participate, will you be able to use your facility like you have in the past? If not, which is probably likely that it's not going to be as it was in the past, what are the restrictions? If you can participate but cannot use your facility, are you open to participating in another way? And what would that look like? And what do you foresee as any kind of obstacles for donations that you would normally rely on? Are those going to still be there? If not, what do we need to do about that? And then volunteers, of course, because all of us know that we're still in a state where volunteers are not as willing to come forward and help out. So all those things will help us determine what Jubilee Christmas will look like this year, and also determine how many families we could accommodate. Because honestly, in the past, you all have determined how many families or how many openings for families we have based on what you're willing to do, what you're capable of doing. So any questions about any of those? Did I miss any of the big obstacles or big issues? Okay. Well, let's start with the good news. Who in the room here has no restrictions? You think you'd be able to participate pretty much the way you did last year, or close to it? All right, how many of you are able to participate and use your facility in some limited capacity? Okay. Wonder what the best way to get a poll on that is.
Pablo, when you say limited capacity, what exactly do you mean by that?
Good question.
We would be able to store and sort and maybe package together items, but we currently are suspending all in-person meetings and anticipate that will probably carry through the month of December.
Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, if you can use the facility, what would the restrictions be at this point?
We don't know what our restrictions are.
I'm Carol from Christ United Methodist.
Mhm.
I think it's hard to plan ahead as things change and you have to be really flexible. We've discussed a little bit of even a drive-through. People can our collection, our donations, I'm sure may be down, but do what we can, and then not so many gifts and all the stuff we tend to do, but maybe they can drive through outside. We can hand them a bag and they can continue on. No one comes in the church. We are having live worship now, but we are limited on the amount of people. So I think it's so hard to plan this far ahead. We may be in decent shape and we may not be.
Yeah, and I guess we could do a worst case scenario and a best case scenario, and I agree with what I'm sensing with a couple of you that have spoken. It's not going to be like it was last year. None of the churches are going to be able to have people in the buildings as close as they were, doing as much as they did, shopping for their own toys, wrapping, mingling without any restrictions whatsoever. I guess what is in my mind, and let's maybe to start a conversation at least, how many of you would be able to have, say we get you enough information that you could package up everything the family would need and have the family walk through the building, pick it up, and then go through an assembly line where they get everything that they needed.
And on the left-hand side, it'll be like find a class.
All right, I am going to mute everybody right now because that'll make it easier. And you unmute yourself to speak. Would anybody be able to do that right now?
So Christy Evans, Trinity United Methodist.
Yeah.
I think what Susie and I are kind of texting back and forth during all this, I think that there would be some way that we would be able to accommodate families. Definitely if we're prepackaging and asking families what they need, we would have to take fewer families because I think that just financially that would cost more. Plus, I mean, we have about 25 in church right now, so that's limited. The other way I would see it working is if we did take families and set up a store as normal, but then every family would have an appointment time. And that's about as close as I can get.
Yeah.
We're jam-packed in there on a normal time for Jubilee, and we could never do that.
Yeah.
So those are the two ways I see it happening for us.
And I'm sensitive to the fact that it's December, and curbside pickup might be a little rough on your volunteers if it's a blizzard, and we have had blizzards before. So I'm thinking that worst case scenario, we would have a handful, maybe a dozen facilities where we could walk someone in a gym. They'd be 12 feet away from any volunteer that was serving them, and they would walk through and you get their package of goods, get their wrapping paper, their ham, their cookies, and be out the door. I think that's the minimal we could offer. We're lucky that it's been 5 months, so we've seen other events happen. We've seen food pantries that have been able to serve people and not stop. Schools that have done shifts. So if capacity is half, half of your kids come in the first part of the day, half come in the second part of the day. So maybe it's going to be a longer day. But we do shifts. Maybe we aren't doing individual churches, but we're doing, we're all collectively doing things together. Those are some of the things that are going through my mind because we're going to do something. It's not going to be 800 families, I don't think, like we have in the past, but thoughts? Your preferences? Go
Hi
ahead.
there, Jada from UU Church.
Uh-huh.
One of our big issues is we usually spend 8 weeks up till then trying to get our parishioners to buy toys, and we're not meeting in person anytime soon and haven't been. I know that part of my budget has had to go to other things because the income hasn't been there during the pandemic. So I don't know how much we'd really be able to contribute at this point. But doing one centralized location would be a lot easier because I'm not even allowed in the building right now.
Yeah, I think we're talking about more than one centralized location if we're going to do hundreds of people. But yeah, there's a couple of you that do have facilities that are perfect for it. Is Central here? Central Presbyterian? That one
Yes,
comes to
I'm here.
mind.
I'm
Oh,
here.
hi, Lucia. How are you?
Yeah, not so good, but thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. As long as I don't move my head, vertigo's got me today.
Oh my God.
I think one of the things I thought of, it would be interesting if we could somehow have a way for people who could shop online ahead from selected items that we would probably purchase anyway. And then it would just be a pretty easy pack up and take to a car. But Central's, I would assume that the space of Central would be available. The big gym, I know for sure.
Yeah. And this is a spoiler alert for you at Central, but we're thinking something similar to Thanksgiving dinner, where we would have them walk in the front door. The servers would be 10, 12 feet away, but close enough that the individual can tell them what they wanted on their Thanksgiving, meal. And we would package up something for every family. And at the end of the line, they'd get the dessert and they'd go out the door. But at least we do the program. So that's kind of the model I'm thinking for Jubilee Christmas as well. I know not all of your facilities can do that, but if there's a way we could walk in one door, walk through a room, and walk out another door, that potentially could work.
I think that is doable, but I think the volunteers that we have had would probably be out of circuit this year to help. Many of them, not all of them, but especially the older ones. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking about a program that's going to take a lot more volunteer hours on the front end.
Yeah,
I think, and we're going to change. We'll have to change the way we register. I wanted to meet with you all first to see where we were at, but I have spoken to the Salvation Army and Faith Church, who are the two other big ones, to see what they're thinking. And we might get some ideas from them, especially the Angel Tree program, where they get sizes and toy ideas up front and they buy them and they basically get what they ask for within reason. Looking at what kind of information they gather on the front end, which we've never done that as far as Lafayette Urban Ministry is concerned, but some of you as churches have done that. Some of you that package up the stuff for the families. Is Grace Lutheran? No, Grace United Methodist. Are they here? Who are the churches that shop in advance and they show up and there's a table and it's got all their toys on it?
I'm here. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's which Grace? I'm sorry.
I'm here at Grace United Methodist, but I'm brand spanking new to the job. I'll actually defer to Doris Lintner, who is our point person volunteer for Jubilee Christmas. She is on this call, I believe.
Well, she is. Hi, Doris.
Maybe
I don't
muted.
see you.
Maybe muted.
I'll have to
Unmute.
go to page 2 to see you. Oh, look at all these people on page 2. Sorry about you. I haven't seen you. Oh, and Wes is here. Did you want to say something, Wes? No, you're good. Wes, our new executive director, is also here. So if you have any questions for him, I still don't see Doris, though. Doris, are you here?
She's there.
Oh, there you are.
She's
Hi,
muted.
Doris. I will
I think
unmute
she's
you,
muted.
Doris.
Can
Okay,
you
now
hear
you
me?
can speak. Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, great. You're right. We in the past have always made phone calls to each family, get appropriate suggestions and for gift ideas for each child. We then, in the past, have put a tree with ornaments for our congregation to select, bring back, drop off. I track them. We know where they are. We then have the table ready and prepared with all of the gifts that they have selected. But I'm at a loss on how we're going to do that, considering that process I don't think is going to be applicable this year because we're mostly online right now.
Okay.
So I would struggle a little bit with on how we accomplish that. Making the phone calls we've always done, so that's easy. But how do you then how do you communicate that to the congregation, and how do you get the gifts back? So
Yes, and
open for ideas.
And honestly, at LUM, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wes, but we haven't seen a decrease in financial donations, monetary donations, but we've seen a really big decrease in needed items, if you will. I mean, for the first time in my memory, we ran out of toothbrushes. We've never run out of toothbrushes, but people just aren't going out and buying things and donating items, which could be a challenge. But I do want to see how many of you would be willing to explore online gifts, or Amazon has wish lists, for instance, that we could set up an Amazon wish list and ask people to purchase and ship them to various locations.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm concerned about that is, just like other Amazon things now, since that's a big season, are we going to now wait for a shipment that's never going to show up, or show up way down the line? That's the only thing that scares me.
Rhonda, you're just trying to get us to envision a crying baby on Christmas morning.
Yes, that's exactly it.
That's exactly it.
Well, can we put a date on that? If we get on it soon enough, say, hey, please have an Amazon order in by October 15th, so sure it gets in before December.
Yeah, we could prepare for some of these things in advance and see how they go, but there's always going to be that risk that, because we don't know what Amazon's capability is during Christmas time during a pandemic.
Not all of them have access to internet either.
Well, no, that
Carol,
would be,
can you hear me?
Yes.
I sent you a text. I wondered how our older community would handle Amazon.
Well, it would be the guests going online to order.
No.
Or be
No.
No,
We would.
We would, yeah. Fair.
Okay.
We might be surprised. There's a lot more people doing. I have an 85-year-old watching Zoom or watching a YouTube Bible study. So, hey.
Okay, great.
But I can't, I think it'd be limited more by doing that, Twyla.
Okay.
Or maybe we can promote that, have your grandkids come over and help you with Zoom and order something online for you. Just encourage the older people to have their grandchildren with them and show them how to do it.
Beth, did you have something?
Yeah, Pablo, I was just going to say, that's a good idea. I was going to say, I'm from Our Savior Lutheran, and we have a very small facility. Would never have enough volunteers at this point. We're not open either. But we would have plenty of money, people willing to donate money. But I guess if we even just had the wish list, they could donate the money. I could do all the ordering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we did it that way too, because if the money's there, so that would be a way to do it. I was, I don't even think we could even do a drive-through or appointment only. So, but ordering online is a wonderful idea if you could get the. I've tried to call people in the past and get good ideas, which was also very difficult to give them real specifics. To be real specific with me, so in the past. So, but I know we would be a very generous congregation, have plenty of money to use for Jubilee Christmas.
Pablo, would it be possible in some form when they mail their registration in to have a pre-selected gift list they could choose from just in general categories? Do they like Legos? Do they like Tonka? Do they like sports? Do they like arts and crafts?
Yeah.
And just have 12 or 15 categories. And then if the guests returned that with their registration, we wouldn't have that extra step of having to contact everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We'd already
Yeah.
have an idea.
Good idea.
Well, I was thinking of form, but I like your idea better because number one, we are controlling a limited number of categories, and we're controlling the amount of the gift because if you ask a parent what an 11-year-old wants, they want an Xbox or they want a Wii Switch or whatever. I just combined two, didn't I? Wii Switch, a Switch, and those we're not going to give them that. So yeah, I think that, and what I'm envisioning, just think about this for a moment, is 2 or 3 of you maybe volunteering to help me craft what it is we present back to the group at some point. So I know not all of you have that kind of time commitment or desire to work with me, but if there are a couple of you out there, I would appreciate that. I think LUM is in a good place right now as far as technology goes. We were able to pretty much turn on a dime and put online forums up for financial assistance, ID clinic, immigration clinic, and we have not stopped serving clients. We've actually had a tough time keeping up with the online forms. But that technology we have in place, and I think the parents that we're dealing with, they're very tech savvy. Maybe not 100% of them, but yeah, even if they didn't have the technology, didn't have the internet, we could certainly work with them on the phone to fill out the form with them one-on-one on the phone as well. So I don't see an issue with that. And again, I was going to talk to Salvation Army because they've done this for years, as far as getting that information on the front end. See if we can get some ideas from them.
So Pablo, a couple of things. Kathy Barron from Good Shepherd, and we always work with St. John's.
Yes.
I really like the idea of large common sites where maybe a couple, 3 churches can work together. And I really like the idea too of the categories, because I think if you give a blank slate to a parent, like you said, then you're looking for a specific toy that they probably will come back with, certain model number of Legos or something the child's been looking for. So the category is a really good idea.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, and remember that the idea is to give these families a Christmas, not the best Christmas they've ever seen, but a Christmas. And it's always been a really, really nice Christmas. But it doesn't have to be extravagant, and that kind of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to teach them about Christmas anyway. But anyway.
The question I have, Wendy Max in Heartland Church, is the county fair down there. I haven't been off of Teal Street, but I know that is all new. Is that by chance going to be done where we could maybe use that for a large site, a couple churches?
Nina, do you have any insight there?
It will not be done.
Oh,
okay.
It's not usable at all. One building's already down, the other's not up yet, and the other one's unusable.
I think that the Oakland High School that we've used for after Jubilee would be an option for us. I'm just curious, and you don't have to answer now, but you could either put it in the chat or let me know later. Who of you among you is comfortable with doing a walkthrough? First United Methodist, would you have a way to get someone in the front door, out the back door? And trying to think of who else out there is.
Pablo, go Rhonda.
Okay, Rhonda from First United. I don't know that we would be comfortable with them coming into the building, and we don't really have our back door and our front door are pretty far apart, so they have to walk all the way around the building then to get back to the parking lot.
Right,
which
right.
wouldn't be real unless they were with someone else. But
Yeah.
and we had talked about, we have that big awning out front, and we had talked about maybe doing something about keeping all the gifts inside in the narthex, and then grabbing a thing, having someone announce that it's John Smith, then
Yeah.
you know, have a couple different people that know the bags, grab the bags and go out.
Yeah.
And hand it to them or put it in their car, and then they go on. So
Well, and there's ways of controlling that too. You could set appointments, and we could help you do that too. What about First Christian, First Baptist?
First Christian, we have talked about Jubilee, and Pastor Andrew is very cautious.
Mm-hmm.
So we have talked about drive-through, and have even talked about that if we did a drive-through, we possibly could do more families than we have in the past.
Oh, wow.
We did have Christmas in July, and we requested financial help only, and the help so far has been overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you haven't done a major solicitation for monetary donations, I think you'll be surprised, especially if there's another stimulus check that comes out. I mean, I don't think it's beyond what you can do by suggesting that if they don't need the money, you'd spend it really well on Jubilee Christmas.
And we also, someone mentioned about Amazon. I used Amazon last year, about 2 weeks before Jubilee, and I got everything except one item that they were sold out that I ordered. And I ordered probably about $300-400 worth of toys.
And you're all on Amazon Smile, right? So you actually make a percentage back.
Yep.
Is First Baptist here?
Pardon?
First Baptist? Anybody representing First Baptist? What about Lafayette Christian Reformed? Oh.
Can I add really fast, First Christian, as you talk about a walkthrough, I think we can make.
Hi, Andrew.
I think we can make a walkthrough work too.
Yeah.
It would require stairs, but
yeah,
we have doors that are far apart.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm Christ United Methodist. We're having a kids closet open this weekend, and we're letting so many enter at a time, and taking temperatures and masks required. They're coming in one door and out another door. If there isn't an outbreak, I think we could do help at Christ United Methodist.
Okay, great, wonderful. And Ashley, you've got a pretty big facility too, don't you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we could have a walkthrough in the basement, through one set of doors, down and out the other. If you thought that would be a good space with some stairs, that would be more than fine, I would think. There may be some restrictions, as in saying masks, you know what I mean? That's sort of what we're saying in public buildings anyways, but I think that would sort of be normal by then. So I don't think that would be a problem for us.
Yeah, we're having the full hazmat team out there, spraying hands with hand sanitizer, masks on, gloves, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
And we're not going to take any chances 2 weeks before Christmas. Cindy, what about St. Andrew?
Melissa and I were just talking, and I'll turn my video on. Let's see. I was having my after-school snack. Sorry. So it's been a long day on Zoom all day long. We are not sure. Like, we have not. Neither one of us are going to church in person now. We are starting in-person church, but I mean, there is the potential that we would be able to do a walkthrough. But that's just something that we need to touch base with our pastors about.
Yeah, and I'm not ruling out multiple days of Jubilee Christmas either. It would be a strain on all of us because it's a busy time of year, but if we had to segment, 50 families every 2 or 3 hours, we might run out of Saturday and have to go to another day, maybe a Friday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon. I don't know.
This is Sheila from Bethany.
And I was just wondering, we're talking about getting gifts and everything. What if, has it ever been considered to get gift cards, give them to the families and let the families go do the shopping for their own kids?
What are your thoughts, people? Mary, hold off.
Hey, Pablo, Kevin from Bethany. I'll give some folks some time to think about that. And let me interject one other thing, and that is back to the idea about giving categories for families to respond to. I have knowledge of, but no experience with Amazon 360. Or I'm sorry, it's Good 360, which is through Amazon, and you're able to order items like that in bulk. And so you might order 100 of one particular kind of toy, but at a drastically reduced price. And that may be something that we wish to explore and have collective buying power and find some place where we can warehouse and distribute those items. So just an idea to toss out there that we may want to explore that as a possibility.
Awesome. That's a great idea. So any thoughts about just giving families a set amount or a gift card for each child?
My suggestion on that is sometimes it doesn't go where it needs to be. It'd be nice to trust people, but when you're working with these people, they'll use it something else. If you could get gift cards in specific name, that would be great. I think something is better than nothing. If if COVID really takes off this fall and we're in desperate need, as a backup, I'm giving something. But I think we have to try the other way first.
Yeah.
It's also easy to lose gift cards. They don't get used sometimes just because they're small, they get misplaced. So,
well,
I'm not going against the gift card thing, but I do know that along that whole trust thing, that a lot of the presents go back to the stores for other things too. So, it is what it is, and you have to, like you said, you have to trust them, and so.
We
One
take all the
concern-
price tags off and sometimes mark out the barcodes where you can't return it.
And so then they sell it on Facebook.
Yeah.
But we 100% trust them. We've never been in the business of policing, but it doesn't mean we can't think of the best way for the child to actually get Christmas and not the parents figure out a way to eke out some of it for themselves. What about some other places we haven't heard from? Dayton, what are you thinking right now? Is Molly here?
Yeah. I don't really know. I think we could do a walkthrough, but we don't host very many families, so.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I think we could do something small still and do a walkthrough in the basement.
Okay. How about Federated? Pauline, what are you thinking? Let me unmute you first there, Pauline. Okay, go ahead.
I joined late. So when you mean a walkthrough, does that mean the family comes and actually chooses the stuff still, or no? They just walk through and you give them what you've already packaged up for them?
Yeah, they would give us a lot of information up front, and we would package up something for each child, and they would walk through and pick up, what they need, plus the gift wrap and the ham and the cookies and the gift cards for food and all that. But there'd be some contact with them. It wouldn't be out in the freezing cold. We could be able to schedule it and control it maybe a little better in the building. I don't know.
We actually have in-person church, and we have had since the beginning of July. And we've done actually much better than I thought. We have a large church, but we don't have as many people come. So we have half that watch online and then half that come. So we probably only have 30 or 40 who come inside the building every Sunday. I think we would feel comfortable with a walkthrough, and I can find volunteers to help me, you know, be able to let them choose their, or pick up their ham, their blanket, and we always make them a big household basket, right? So it has laundry and toilet, it's huge. It has it's a laundry basket, right? Filled with detergent and toilet paper and all sorts of the other stuff. So I think we're okay with that.
Okay.
Pablo?
Who's calling my name? Oh, hi, Pam.
Pam from Congress Street.
Yes.
And we only have about 10 or 12 families. So I think we could probably do a walkthrough and do our normal thing where we contact the families and have the gifts already for each child.
Yeah, good. Good. I think I mean, it sounds like we're leaning towards some kind of hybrid, which is another term that COVID has created, where some of you are going to be able to do the same number as you've always been able to do, just kind of make it a little less personal and walk through. Carol and Ron, did you have something to add?
Hi, Pablo. Hey, Ron Smith, Faith Presbyterian Church, title, retired. I, of all people, can say, Pablo, when you say that we do all the work, you are certainly being humble. I would not have your job again for double the money. I've been taking notes, and as usual, I get better ideas when I brainstorm like this, but Faith Presbyterian has a huge fellowship hall. It also has the ability to subdivide into 4 small classrooms in 1 large room. We could have people come in the rear entrance into one of these small rooms, and first of all, the entire area, I'm also doing church maintenance, sucker for that, I guess, but I've installed MERV 13 filters in our furnaces. We exchange air 3 times an hour. We're doing everything that they suggest. We also have gone back to having services on Sunday in a limited fashion, but we certainly enjoy seeing our friends and having that community again. But back to Fellowship Hall, once they come in, then we have a whole bunch of nurses too, and they could go through some kind of a screening, the temperature thing and whatnot. And the registration in the next room, and then yada, 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 finally out, and table by table have our host take them through. By that time, they will have their own shopping done. They will grab some paper, their hams, etc., and it'll be assembly line right out the door. We will ask that all families are represented only by 1 parent physically, and that they would come at an appointment time, say 20-minute intervals, to try to slow down any kind of bottleneck. This would be accomplished probably once we get your list to go into a lottery, showing that you're first because your name was pulled out of the hat first, etc. My problem at Faith Pres will be getting enough people on board to actually do this. And there's also a chance that Carol and I will be in Texas with our new granddaughter. I don't know. As far as Amazon being also part of the tax program, another benefit of Jubilee Christmas is the shot in the arm for our local economy. Amazon doesn't do that. And that's my take.
Point well taken. So that's the first I've heard the church suggest it's almost close to what you did last year. So they'd be picking their toys. So.
Hey, Pablo.
Yes, Katie.
I'm Katie Seward from Lafayette Church of the Brethren. Quick question. Like, I know something, we have a church service that we do along with our Jubilee Christmas program. any of our families have access to Zoom, or could we incorporate some kind of a service that way you have that aspect of the Christmas service too?
Well, I mean, I'd hesitate to impose that from LUM, but if that were an idea of what some of you wanted to do with your families, we could help with that. I mean, honestly, anybody that has a smartphone has access to Zoom. So whether or not they know how to get access to it, though, is the issue. So, but there might be a way to actually, I mean, I'm sensing you don't want to get away from the real meaning of Christmas completely, and we might be able to help make sure that that's conveyed in some way.
Pablo?
Yes.
I have a concern about different families coming in and handling the toys. You would think that none of them have COVID, but we don't know. And just because they don't have a temperature when they walk through the door doesn't mean much. So I, for one, don't really like the idea of the parents choosing their gift from a table or tables of gifts for that reason, because of the hands being on, and there's no way you can go through and, oh, you touched that, let me disinfect it, you know.
Sure.
So
There's, I mean, I'm just talking off the top of my head here. I think there's ways of easily remedying some of those concerns. You know, not allowing them to touch, making sure that there's enough space and they just be on display, and maybe only the church member touching things and putting it in a bag. So there's ways of doing that. I do agree with the temperature check, but it is, you know, one of the only things we have right now. So, and I'm assuming you all have infrared thermometers at your churches, no? That would be something that we would probably require, is the temperature check at the door. So
they require temperature checks on Sunday mornings, and anybody entering the church, we take temperatures at all the doors.
yeah, and you know, and if you're worried, we haven't done the temperature check in the middle of the winter, and as you've probably found out, they're not always reliable when people first enter the building. I blast my air conditioner and my 10-minute drive to work every day, so I sometimes register a 93, which I'm sure I'm not a 93.7, but if you chase me down 10 minutes later, I'm back up to my normal 96 something. So, but there's strategies for that too. You can take their temperature multiple times while they're going through the phases if you feel like you're not able to social distance. I mean, social distancing is the best way to do it, masks, and I would even suggest that your volunteers wear shields that day, the face shields, which would protect them from a random sneeze. You know, it's gonna still be cold and flu season, whether they have COVID or not, they're gonna be sneezing.
The other suggestion that I was wondering in terms of, that's why I thought is just require gloves if they want to touch, but I noticed when you have baked goods in the store, they're no longer hand and picked up, they're already pre-packaged.
Yeah.
So instead of giving a plate of cookies, it would be better to give the box of, you know, the different cookies, and they go home and make it, or the brownie box or whatever. Because I noticed that has been a change, that nothing is open anymore.
Yeah, like I said, we've been through this 5 months, and by the time we get to that point, it'll be another, I'm gonna do the math here, 3 months? Oh, September, October, November, December, 4 months. So it'll be 8 or 9 months into it at that point, and we'll be seeing how other things are playing out, and we'll learn a lot of the tricks. I mean, when I say appointment too, in my mind, they stay in the car until we call them in the building. That's, you know, they're not standing in line on a sidewalk. So little strategies like that we've seen, mostly food pantries, but you may have seen it with some church services.
Well, going to the doctor is like that. There's a big number there, and they call it, and then they tell them to come in. So.
Yeah, Jimmy John's too.
And a question. One thing to keep in mind, though, is a lot of our families generally ride the bus. So they're not going to be able to sit on the bus and wait to get called in.
Who's speaking? Is this Jada?
It's Jada.
Oh, sorry.
I did introduce myself, but I think I was unmuting at the same time. Sorry.
Well, I had to go back to page 1. Sorry.
I know. There's so many pages. But yeah, I mean, a lot of our people generally ride the bus. So we have to have a contingency plan for that too.
We haven't heard from St. Tom's. Do we have I think we have a couple of people from St. Tom's. Maybe. Robin, are you here? Maybe not. I know that facility pretty well, and I think they could do a walkthrough, but I don't. There's a new pastor at St. Tom's, if you didn't know, and I'm not sure yet what his philosophy would be on doing it. So that would be the only obstacle. And Wendy, we have never done Jubilee Christmas at your facility. Would it be possible to do a walkthrough if someone else was supporting the family?
Not a walkthrough, but we have a nice covered porch area in front of them, so we could do a good drive through and use our facilities and go in and, you know, have the packages lined up and do that. And I was just thinking, with all of this, it'd probably be easier to spread out. The only thing is, I don't know how many families you get from, you know, Highway 25, and we're kind of the northeast. We're up by Nina. And I don't know if, the bus doesn't come out here, so we'd probably have to have the people that has some sort of transportation if we did Heartland Church. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question, Pablo, Kathy from Good Shepherd. Is weather the main or only reason for having them come in as opposed to a drive-through? Because if everything is packaged anyway and they just come in and pick up a bag and go a little further and pick up another bag, and is weather the main thing?
I don't know. What do you all think? I mean, I'm sensing, Kathy, that you'd prefer a drive-through and not a.
Well, I think it amounts to the
curbside.
same thing, and I think it actually amounts to the same thing if everything's pre-packaged, so to speak. Bags of toys, bags of paper towels, and so forth, household things. And so I guess I think it's easier in a way to have a drive-through and have people bring stuff out to them and greet them, rather than they're doing the same thing, coming in, but they're not selecting their own toys, which I agree with. I don't think that's a great idea. So I just don't see the reason, except for weather, and they would have to deal with weather. Whereas on the other hand, if we brought those things out to them, only we would have to deal with weather, going through ice or whatever it might be.
Right.
Just a thought.
And some of you, like Bethany, you have that awning, that funeral awning, I call it. So some of you have that kind of setup too, where it might even be easy to do it. I do think that we need to prepare for weather, because if it happens and we have to shut down the locations where they were only set up for curbside, that would add some confusion. But I also would argue that you're going to miss meeting the parent, and that human connection, and they're going to miss the connection with you. I think what you're giving them is just your love and your care, and you're treating them with dignity. And honestly, for a couple of hours, that could change their whole Christmas. So I would hope that you would have that interaction, even if it was just passing through the building. And I guess you could argue you can get that through a driver's window, but yes.
Hi, Mark Thomas from Good Shepherd.
Hi,
everybody. I just realized I probably am not going to be able to wrap anybody's presents this year, and I'm suddenly very sad about that.
Yeah, no more paper cuts.
Oh, that's the sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Yes. Yeah, that's, I mean, and And what do you get out of that wrapping is the conversation, really.
Yeah,
right?
the conversation.
It's a chance to ask, not interview them per se, but to ask them how they're doing, and look them in the eyes and actually see them and listen to them,
and do really bad wrapping jobs, and to make jokes about how I only will accept rectangular presents.
There you go. There's bags, Mark.
I know. I'm going to miss all of that, and that makes me sad.
Well, 2021 is going to be much different. I have faith in science and God.
Pablo, it's Doris Lintner.
Hi, Doris.
At Grace, we do have an awning that they would be able to actually drive through. And I hear you all talking about the human touch, and I think that's probably one of the things we're all struggling with. But I could see our youth group dressed up in Santa hats, and I could see carolers, and I can see mugs of hot chocolate that are to-go cups, and making them feel like it's as festive as we can make it under these uncertain times. So I think you can spread love. You can spread Christ's love in 1,000 different ways. And so I kind of think I can see that. We have a daycare at our church, so we're ultra careful on any exposure of any kind, even though they're constantly sanitizing. But that was just a thing I wanted to throw out. That human touch, I agree, is the thing that we're missing the most, but I think there are ways to accomplish that even on a drive-through. I did have one question. I've heard you talk about picking up the hams. Was there any thought on increasing the amount of the gift card and not having the actual ham to carry? And
would love you for that.
Well,
yeah, purchasing hams is, believe it or not, one of the worst tasks I have all year. You'd really be surprised when you walk into a superstore and say, I have $7,000 to spend on hams. They don't get excited, and they don't really, it's hard. I mean, and last year was the worst. So yes, there's a lot of thought to that. And I'd be in complete favor of that. And then we could even specify that, here's money for dinner, but here's money for protein. And I don't really care what protein you get, but, make it a healthy meal, not just mashed potatoes and corn. Right,
well,
Nina? Yeah, go ahead, Doris.
I was just going to add, I think the added benefit of that is that not everyone wants ham. Some people, for dietary reasons, have poultry instead. And it's just one more thing for the family to have to carry, and for us to have to store. I mean, there's just so many benefits to it. So, just a thought.
Jada, tell Sam to stop listening to our conversation.
Well, I think there's limits on certain foods. I notice you go in and try to get a cut of meat, and it's not necessarily there. I don't know what hams and turkeys will be this year, but that's been one of the downsides of COVID-19 is, I don't know. So we may have a shortage anyway when it gets closer to time.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I do want to meet that person that doesn't like ham, though.
I have people in my family that don't like ham, sorry.
Oh. I'd unfriend them on Facebook now. All right, anybody that hasn't spoken that is really dying to share something? Or just slightly wants to share something?
Are we thinking about having a second or third Christmas, or are we thinking about only doing, in this environment, only having to do the morning, or try to do what we normally do for the morning?
I'm open to anything at this point. You own me for the weekend, so put me to work.
Okay.
I mean, I do think, to summarize, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but this might actually spur some more conversation. But I think what we're leaning towards is trying to have walkthroughs. It most likely will be fewer churches, fewer locations, fewer facilities. And we'll purchase things in advance and have them walk through and do it that way. Might have to do a couple of times a day. I would definitely encourage appointments, stay in the car. And we've, LUM's been through the PPE, and you all have too, I know, those of you that have people coming to your church. But we could give you a lot of guidance on what we would suggest to keep the parents safe, keep the volunteers safe, keep all of you safe. Yeah, that's kind of where I think we're going at it. I definitely don't sense we're canceling Jubilee Christmas.
Pablo,
Go ahead, Wes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you want to say anything else? I just wanted to weigh in and say thanks to everybody for your willingness to see this thing go forward, and the flexibility, the creativity, the adaptability. I see the passion, the commitment, the human touch, all of those things are just really wonderful to see. So thanks for being on this call, and I'm excited to see what will happen with Jubilee Christmas this year, because I think it's going to be great with this many heads and hearts involved. So well done, everybody. Thanks for your leadership, Pablo.
Thank you. And I also want to thank you for participating in this, especially the pastors who have stopped by and listened and participated. It shows that we do have the support for Jubilee Christmas, and that's very, very encouraging. So thank you, all the pastors and church leaders who popped in. Great to see all your faces. I've missed you all. If you could think about that, working with me a little bit more closely, that way we don't have to have this big discussion, but we'll come back definitely before September with a skeleton of an idea with built-in flexibility for you to still adapt and do your own thing. But I think I've heard you. I think my brain is working. So, and you all know how to reach me.
So Pablo, when will you need to know exactly what our church is willing to do? I mean,
well,
do you want us to, after you've decided, let you know specifically, or do we just want to wait for your what you are putting out as an idea? Or
I would need to know some information before we send the letter out to the families, but I don't need to know the number yet. So I would. So in other words, if we're going to do categories of toys, if we're going to ask them sizes, all that, I would need to know that probably by the first or second week of September.
But like if we're not willing to host a walkthrough even
not until like mid-October.
You don't need to know any of that, or the number of families we'd be able to support, or how, or just to bring stuff to a facility, or I mean, okay. That's what I'm wondering. What do you?
Let's just say the end of September.
What our
church deadline on that? Yeah, what you're willing to do, especially if you're not able to do anything, which I did hear from one church that their state leadership they can't do anything in their facility. So we've lost one West Side church. And I know there's churches like St. John's that has been like unbelievably generous and participated and brought in other churches to help them as well, that I can't see walking through that building up the stairs and all that and social distancing. So there's going to be some of those frustrations, some of the sadness of being, not being able to do the amount, the number of people you have in the past, the number of families. So we'll all support each other. We'll get through this. We'll do something. In social work, you have to tell yourself that, and it's probably the same in the church world, you have to focus on what you can do and not obsess about what you can't do. And I'm encouraged that we're going to do something. And that's, that's very good for the community. I might learn more talking to Faith Church about their Christmas for Everyone program, and I might learn more from Salvation Army, and Ashley's offered to help me with that conversation. Thank you, Ashley, because she has got a connection there. So yeah, we might learn something from them as well. I hope they're going to do their programs too. So any final questions or concerns? Can I give you a commercial? tonight at Chipotle, if you go to the South Street Chipotle and tell them that you're there for Lafayette Urban Ministry, we'll get 33% of that for our after-school program between 5 and 9 o'clock. And you can do it on your app, you can do it online. My wife is on her way, so that it'll be waiting for me when I'm done with this call. So there you go. And Wes is doing it too, right, Wes? Yeah.
Yep.
5:30.
We're going tonight.
Yay.
I'm not cooking.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I feel like Christmas is right around the corner. What I'll do is I'll follow up with this with a timeline and when we're going to make decisions. I will wait for one or two of you to contact me to see if you want to brainstorm a little bit more on a smaller scale. And then we'll come up with a proposal and see where we go from there. Sound good?
Good.
All right. Thank you all. Wes, do you want to end us in prayer?
Sure. Yeah, I'll say a prayer. God, I thank you so much for these sisters and these brothers. Thank you for their hearts. Thank you for their minds. Thank you for their willingness to serve and to honor the birth of your son, Jesus. We ask, Lord, for wisdom, for creativity. We ask for persistence and resilience. We ask for an end to this pandemic. We pray you would make this Jubilee Christmas into what you want it to be, and that every person who volunteers, every person who receives, every child who benefits from this would feel a bit of your love surging within them. You would bring joy this Christmas season. Thank you for the gift of technology. Thanks for this hour well spent. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
For classes, the university and SPIN have worked to create COVID-19 safety measures for the scooters. This includes the scooters requiring users to wear a mask while riding.
We are really happy about is both Purdue and SPIN's participation in making sure that we have really sound sanitizing practices